Thank you. When you're from the Pacific, you learn early that the ocean is something that connects us all. But disaster is something that can divide us. Our region stands in the front lines of climate change, susceptible to tsunamis, volcano eruptions, cyclones, all of which test the resilience of our infrastructure and communities. Bula. Let's try that one more time. Bula. For most of my colleagues and friends, if this is the first time in Oceania, that is how we say hello from where we're from in Fiji. And my name is Sai, and my colleague here, Mere, and I represent the Pacific community. And today, we'll be talking about the work that we do, and that is the survey for infrastructure resilience and geospatial exposure, applying open source tools and methods in the Pacific. So, this is a project that is funded by CDRI, a climate and disaster resilient infrastructure. It is a 2-year project and focuses work in 3 islands in the region. That is Tonga, Vanuatu, and Kiribati. And the work that we do with them is managing the database of hazard and infrastructure data to create centralized, up-to-date information that supports early warning system. The project is facilitated through the IRIS program, Infrastructure for Resilient Island States, to support small island developing states. The funding support from the government of India, Australia, United Kingdom, and the European Union. To move forward with these projects, we need endorsement from the countries. And with Vanuatu, it was endorsed by the Department of Urban Affairs and Planning, and with Tonga, NDRMO, and Kiribati, NDMO. So, project overview. What are the goals of our project? It's only 3, and the first one being equipping the countries with increased knowledge and capacity and resource to enhance the resilience of existing critical infrastructure, as well as contributing to the informing of future critical infrastructure management systems. Also to enhance the technical expertise, skill, and capacity of local stakeholders to contribute to the strengthening of local institutions, academia, and practitioners. And lastly, to enhance multi-hazard early warning systems and response mechanisms for critical infrastructure and settlements through exploring appropriate risks. The outcomes that we anticipate from these projects are asset infrastructure survey and exposure modeling, of which my colleague here will be further elaborating on, support existing and established geodatabase, that is GeoNode for local GeoNode databases, capacity building and upskilling and empowerment of local staff, and finally, dissemination of learning and operationalization of outputs and datasets. And I will hand over the mic to my colleague to carry on from here.
Thank you, Sai. Sorry. Are you able to hear me? All right, great. What we will be talking about today is just that the asset infrastructure survey of exposure modeling, just because right now we are only at that stage, but for the geodatabase and the GeoNode, all the local GeoNode has been established already, but in order to bring that back to life, we need to liaise with the countries for these 3 countries. Majority of the work that we do is around the capacity building and upskilling of the local staff within the ministries or the governments that comes to these trainings that we conduct. The main parts of it is that all the learnings and all these bits of capacity buildings are running through the ministries, and they could build the capacity within their own ministries and carry forth that learning with them. This project, the SURGE project, is not a new project. This is just a build from the PICRFI project. So the PICRFI stands for the Pacific Catastrophe Risk Assessment Financing Initiatives. All the forms and all the tools that we use for this project, the SURGE project, is built on from PICRFI. Not all the questions that we used or the template that we used is not developed only by SPC, but this is something that the stakeholders of the regional engagement was done. The surveys of what are the tools that is available within these Pacific Island countries that they are using, as well as all the training manuals and data collection templates that we are using now is all from PICRFI. And this is the form that we used for this project as well. There's not much change to it. So the SURGE project is the build on from PICRFI project. Just to touch based on the 3 tools that we use. For our data collection, we use Kobo Toolbox in creating the forms. That was done from PICRFI. All we just did is just, you share the project, and all you can do is just copy and then rename the heading of it. For preparing of the data sets before we go into country, we use QGIS, as well as for the analysis of the data that we collected out from the field, we use QGIS. For GeoNode, we use that for the database to storing some of all these data sets that we collect. Some of the assets data that we collect for this project for the 3 countries are the buildings. I put down the churches, schools, and hospitals. I know they're part of the buildings. But for different countries, they have different priorities. As for Tonga, for this year, they want to mainly focus on their critical infrastructure, which are the churches, the schools, the buildings, and the schools and the hospitals. These are some of the gaps that we have from the previous project under PICRFI. All we did was you identify the area of interest where they're most vulnerable to flooding, or they're near the coast. They're near the coast and they're most vulnerable, so we just collect buildings. But most of the gaps are from the churches, hospitals, and schools. So that is for Tonga. But for Vanuatu, we look at the gaps from the previous project again to see that we're not duplicating the work that we have already done or the data that has already been collected. So we focus more on the area that less data was collected in. Whereas for Kiribati, the PICRFI project wasn't being implemented in Kiribati, unfortunately, because of COVID. So what we did for Kiribati, we give them the whole package, which was we trained them how to use Kobo Toolbox, and then how to create their own forms on Kobo Toolbox and go out to the field to collect these data sets. All these assets. But the area of interest will come from the country. What are their main priority? What are the area that they would like us to collect the data on? So these are all the assets data that we collect. From these assets, the most features that we collect is on buildings alone. We collect about 11 to 13 attributes for buildings, from the roof till to the foundations, the materials, the conditions of the buildings, and all that. All that has been collected. Just to mention that the form is not only, we have 2 forms. That is the conditions before, like post-disaster, and you have the forms that, is it pre-disaster? Pre-assessment, post, yeah, that. All right. So the methodology or the approaches that we use before we go out to the countries, after all the consultations with the countries, it's more like back and forth, mostly back and forth, just to identify the area of interest of the countries. What are their main focus? And then from there, we either digitize missing building footprints, go through the data sets. So it's going to take about, just going to go forward. So mostly we use hot OSM just to get the building footprints, because most of the community has digitized buildings footprints almost around across the world. So we used hot OSM, and then Pacific Data Hub just to collect those data sets and see where the missing bits, as well as Nexus. Nexus is where all our data are being uploaded to, and especially for the Pickerfee work. So we try to not duplicate what Pickerfee has already done, so that we can just fill in the gaps. Just to go back to this. So after collecting all those data sets from those various sources, we'll see which from the area of interest, and then if we need to digitize the buildings from that area of interest. Once that is done, we create the survey grids. I'll show you in a bit. The survey grids allow us to, apportion of it, so that allows the surveyors who are going to be collecting data out in the field. Like, the area is not that big, so that allow them to collect data. After all that is created, and then we package all the survey grids and layers on QField. QField just to act as a guide out in the field. And then we'll set up all the devices. We also procured some of the tablets for some of the countries, so that for data collection. And then the countries will have access to all those tablets for their future data collection. And then we have the exposure data collection training for surveys that I have mentioned before. And then after that, we're just gonna go ahead and do the data survey. And after the data collections, we'll do data validation. The data validation is mainly done by us, the SPC team, and then as well as the data cleaning, as well as the quality checks of the data. Surveys are out in the field, we're collecting data, but it all comes down to the quality of the data that has been collected. All right. So QField. So after everything that has been done, digitizing the buildings, the area, the survey grids, and then we package all this, and then we load it on QField. So the building footprints and the grids, those shapefiles, and then what we use QField for is that to track our location, to act as a guide for us. Okay, we're just moving around and see. Okay, this is the buildings. And then we'll collect the buildings from there. Not just building, but other critical infrastructure. So this is just an example for the island of Hapai, for the two different District 4 and Lifuka. That's I went to this year. Just to touch base on the countries, for the 3 countries, in terms of the data collections and the trainings that were done. These are the different ministries that attended our trainings. But for Vanuatu, since we have already done data collection for Vanuatu under Pickerfee, we only ran the refresher training for the new participants that are coming in. But we're dealing with the same ministries from Pickerfee and this one as well. So we have about 30 participants that were from Vanuatu that were out to collect the data collection as well. One of the main thing of this project as well is that JATSI, the gender percentage and distributions, making sure that we include everyone. So we have about 53% male and then 47% female. Well, yeah, that was great. All right, so the area of interest for Vanuatu is just around the area for the island of Efate. So these are the survey grids that I was talking about. So these are the survey grids that the team created, that the data collection will be in where the gaps are from Pickerfee, because majority of the work has already been done for the other places. So they did data collection here. And these are the places, the area of interest. Just to show you the coverage that for the data collections from the different area of interest. So about, I can't remember how many submissions that was done under COBO. But yeah, majority, this is just the points. These are GPS points. But then it'll come down to the data cleaning and the data quality checks of the data. Then it'll just reduce down from there. Yeah. For Tonga, so our two other colleagues went to Vanuatu, but for Tonga, we are the ones who are responsible for Tonga, for the implementation of the project for Tonga. So for Tonga, we have 20 participants from these different ministries. Well, being the NDRMO, being the main, lead for this project. So they are the ones who are able to, send out emails to get the other ministries to come and join us for this data collection, especially because they're focusing on the critical infrastructure. So it is only fair that we include, education, health, and public enterprise and lands as well. So for the training, we have about 60% male and 40% female who attended the training as well as the survey. The area of interest for Tonga, for the 3 islands, so because we're not only focusing on one piece of area or one district, for Tonga, we're just collecting the critical infrastructure. So the area of interest was for Vavau, Hapai, and Tongatapu. So these are the different districts that we conducted the data collection around on, focusing on schools, educations, telecommunications, electricity, water utilities, and all that. Just to show you the coverage of the data that was collected for these 3 islands. Saya was here with the other team. So we were a total of 20 surveys. So 10 of the surveys were based in Tongatapu just to collect in Tongatapu, and then 5 of us went up to Vavau and 5 to Hapai. For Kiribati, because we're delivering the whole package, that is to run the COBO training, as well as familiarizing the participants or the surveyors how to create their own forms on COBO Toolbox, as well as going out to the field to collect data. So about 29 participants attended this training, as well as did the data collections. So these are the various ministries that attended the training for Kiribati. Again, for the gender, so we have female, 62% of female that attended the training as well as the data collection, and then we have about 38% of male. This is the area of interest in black. For the 3 islands, we have Christmas Island, Abayang, and Tarawa. So these are the area of interest for Kiribati. So 3 of our teams went to conduct the training, and they split up to the 3 islands to lead this. I'm not going to show you the data that was collected for Kiribati, just because we haven't really downloaded all the data from COBO just to put it out there for QGIS, just to visualize. Back to data validation and data cleaning. So these are the whole process of the data cleaning bit. And for data validation, the SPC team, the team are doing it on COBO Toolbox, is that going one by one through each of the forms that they were collected and making sure that all information has been collected and the right information has been collected. And then you either gonna give it, either you approve it or on hold, or you simply just not approved. For the on hold one, and then we have to come back and recheck just to make sure that, or go back to the country or to the one that collected that data, hopefully that they'll get back to us. So this is the whole process of the data cleaning. So right now we're still in the stage of data validation. There's been a lot of data that has been collected out in the field. Right now we're doing data validation for Kiribati, and we're doing data cleaning for Vanuatu and Tonga. So just to give you a brief of the data cleaning. So we'll download all the raw validated data from COBO Toolbox, and then once that is done, we create points from data. In QGIS, we try to split it up at the buildings to be one Excel, and then the utilities and infrastructure to be a different Excel, and then we'll plot that creator points from QGIS. Once that is done, we'll export the data to CSV file. And then we'll convert the CSV file to Excel format, and then we'll go back to the process and then delete all irrelevance, like check for the data duplicates, assign building IDs to the new buildings. So when we're out in the field for the new buildings, we usually just assigned 000 for the Kobo on Kobo toolbox. That will indicate to us that is the new building, and then we have to assign a new building ID. Also, we refactoring changing of data types if building ID contains non-numeric, like most of the buildings in the Pacific are not the same. So you have you can just have the shop, and then you have the residentials both attached to it, and then the surveys out in the field collecting, okay, 11A and this is 11B. So we try to remove that non-numeric values. We also have to rename the headers to the maximum of 10 characters, as well as to remove unwanted data from the table as well. So this is the cycle of the data cleaning process. Just to touch base on some of the challenges that we went through for the data collection, especially for Kobo Toolbox, we have to create multiple accounts now, just because for 1 month we have 5,000 submissions, and then to have the storage, but because our forms, we have to collect many pictures just for the validation process. So we're having that difficulty. But if you want more storage and if you want more submissions per month, you eventually have to pay for it. Outdated building footprints and missing building footprints, yeah, it's always going to be that. And then building footprints on the graveyards. This, for Tonga, majority of the buildings that were not collected are from the graveyard. Like you pick up some hot OSM, is stating that it's a residential, but it's actually a graveyard. But that's some like a cultural beliefs that it's yeah. And then the weather conditions. In the morning it might be clear, and then suddenly it just suddenly rains. So you have to wait. You can't be collecting GPS points when it's foggy and rainy. Errors in data upload, just because some of the surveys logged in different Kobo accounts, and then they're submitting, and then we have to come in and then change the whole thing again. Some of the inaccessible lots due to the poor road conditions or log gates. Some of the communities or some of the places were unable to go in just because it is locked. So whatever we captured, we could just capture the photo from the top, but then we try to gaslight all the features of the building, but then it leads to inaccurate data as well. So yeah, and then the last one, the building has a lot of attributes that needs to be collected, and it can be time consuming. Like I've mentioned before, that building alone, so we collected about 13 attributes, so it's a lot. So what's next? So right now we're still doing data validations and data cleaning. What we will be doing for next year is we'll be conducting country GIS trainings in the use of the data sets that we collected. Mainly, we work together, collaborating with the Partner 2 Plus project, because the Partner 2 Plus, the ones that will be giving us the hazard layers, and then for us, we are collecting the exposure, and then we'll do some GIS analysis, conduct GIS training. And then we'll also be doing the exposure modeling, that is the replacement cost valuation of the infrastructure. We bring in the engineer, to help us with that as well. So there's a lot of going on for next year, as well as setting up or supporting some of the information system or the geonodes in the region for the 3 countries, as well as the ongoing collaborations with the other projects within our division, GEM division, or within the program DCRP. I've just only mentioned 2, but yeah, we have been working across the other projects that sends in request, and then we'll just collaborate from there. Would like to acknowledge the 3 countries and the different ministries that attended the training and continue support that is going on. So that's for Vanuatu, that for this year, and that's for Tonga, and that's for Kiribati. And just some photos from the field and the trainings that were conducted for this year, and we're still looking forward to the upcoming trainings for next year. So majority of the work we do is just building capacity, and yeah, it's been great. We've seen progress in the capacity building side of things in the different country, especially for Tonga. So they just came back from surveying the other small islands that we weren't able to cover during our surveys because we were only given 2 weeks. Special shout out to the team for their hard work behind the scenes. So Thompson is actually our survey team leader, and then Nav, who is responsible for our comm stuff. And then you have the whole TDAs, the technical assistants that work behind the scenes. And if you need to contact us, that's our email. If you want to, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Hope not. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Sai.
Yeah, thank you very much for the talk. It was really interesting. I had a question about the sort of building attribute information. So you talked about getting the locations, but did you also collect sort of like building material, building age, building condition, and I guess how do you think that would affect the results of your exposure assessment?
So you want to answer? Go ahead. Answer. I was just trying to get to the form. So for the buildings, we literally collect almost everything. So the sub-use of the buildings, the foundation type, the material of the foundations, the wall, the conditions as well for the roof, all the condition, the foundation condition, the wall condition, everything. And then the age as well.
We put an age range estimate, and it would be 5 to 20 or even older. Options are there. Yeah. That answers your question.
Okay.
Next one. See.
Oh my gosh. Are we on time? Are we on time?
Bula. So, the data validation and cleaning. This is a big step. Well, there are many steps, right? And since you began this work, did you have any idea? Have you got any new ideas on how to improve, or is it is it on or no steps can be skipped or improved? Maybe tools or the process itself. I don't know.
Thank you. Right now, we're just following the process of our data validation and data cleaning, but we really haven't come up with.
Sure. But just thinking, if any ideas popped up while in doing that, or not yet?
Not yet.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and congrats on the project. It's very interesting. I was wondering, considering the fact that you start basically from the footprint of OSM also for the buildings, understanding the data that is already available also through HOT, if after the data validation, you're also considering giving back to the OSM data model your upgrade on the building footprint or any other assets. And also if you're including, it was not clear to me if you include also an OSM training for the capacity building in terms of also open data enrichment. Yeah.
Thank you. We really didn't give back to OSM, but the data that we collect is given back to the country, as they are the mandated holders of the data that we collect. I'm not sure but if we have to give the data to OSM, you have to directly liaise with the country if they are able to share their own data, like online. But majority of the countries, they want us to upload their data on the Nexus that I showed up, and it's free for you to download and access.
I had a question about the tooling you have. You have Kobo and then you have QField as well. I was wondering whether that's some level of duplication. What is the benefit of one of? I'm not so familiar with Kobo, but what's the benefit of one of the platform over the other? Because then it gives a bit of complexity to your pipeline there.
For us, we use Kobo for our data collections. For QField, it just acts as a guide for us while we're out in the field, just because we just package the area of interest and the grid of the survey that we're going to be surveying out in the ground, as well as the building footprints. So we just package the whole thing, and then we load it on QField, and then while the surveys are out in the field, they'll just act as a guide for us. But we're really not using QField to collect data. We're just using Kobo.
It's a possibility, but it's a few features in.
I've got a similar question actually. I'm from Kobo. I have this information about QField. I'm wondering why you don't use Kobo for your grid.
We really,
One way or the other. There seems to be a duplication there. Yeah.
we really haven't tried to use Kobo for our grids for the survey, but we should definitely look into it. Any more questions?
And with that, we close the session. Thank you very much. There's coffee outside.